1980, 800,000 people got married in Britain, with August the most popular month to tie the knot.
I was so excited, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to be Mrs.
I took my vows and I thought it would last a lifetime.
This is the story of 20 couples who all started married life in the same place that year.
I didn't ever think we'd split up.
I would have done anything in my power to try and get our marriage back together.
Twice I left and twice I went back.
I don't think I was in love when we got married, but I certainly am now.
Local papers around the country filled entire pages with wedding photographs. We chose one paper, the Brighton and Hove Gazette, and traced the 20 happy smiling couples to see how their lives had changed in the quarter of a century since they'd all been brought together on the August wedding page.
Marriage. It's great fun, isn't it? Look back at it now and think, yeah, they were the days.
I was 20 when I got married. I'd known Barry since I was 15. I remember one of my friends saying to me, you know, you don't know what Barry's like. I know Barry, and you'll never last with him.
Were you a bit of a one for the girls? How long did the relationships last?
Oh, I've done well. I've done 3 weeks. That was a blinding time. That was 3 weeks. Done really well.
I don't like to think that we would, you know, I was totally, you know, a goody-goody, but I wasn't a baddie like he was.
I didn't know what to do. I've never proposed to anyone before. But I just said, should we get married? That was it, really. It was never down on one knee. And she said, yes, but you're going to have to do it properly and ask my dad. And I thought, what? What am I going to ask him for? I'm not marrying him. I'm marrying you.
We'd been to a party, both had quite a few drinks. We'd left the party, stopped at our telephone box to call a cab, and that's where I made the proposal, in the phone box.
I wanted to get married simply because I loved Brian, and that was it. I am a great believer in marriage, I always have been. I think it's a natural state for a human being to want to share their lives with somebody.
I was 19 at the time. We met at music college. He reminded me of Charles Bronson, the actor. And I thought, yeah, you're a bit of all right. I'd like to get to know you a bit better.
So while I was taking the dog for a walk, I used to rehearse, you know, and think, when could, you know, now, if I asked her how, you know, how should I do it? And I used to sort of rehearse, you know, Debbie, would you marry me?
We'd never lived together. Our parents wouldn't have allowed that, I don't think. But everybody around us was getting married, so it seemed to be the right thing to do. We were still young. I mean, 18 and 21, it's quite young, isn't it? So a little bit frightening, because we didn't know what the next day and the next day and the next day was going to bring.
He didn't really ask me to marry him. It was just something that happened. We just said, should we get married this year? And yeah, right then. That was it, really. It wasn't any bending knees or anything like that. So I was 19 when I actually got married.
Like Lynn, most of the brides in the wedding page were in their late teens or early 20s. The eldest, Wynne, was a widow of 60. The youngest, Karen, was just 17. Her 26-year-old boyfriend had proposed 2 years earlier.
We was outside Woolworths and he said, will you marry me? And I thought about it and thought about it. I said, yeah.
What age were you?
15.
Really?
Yeah, 15, yeah. Had a nice engagement ring. We got it in the lanes. That was a very nice engagement ring. Obviously, he could afford it because he was working. I wouldn't have got that off of a boy of my own age, would I?
And did you want to get married, Kaz, at 15? You wanted to marry him?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I did, yeah. I must have, yeah, because I wouldn't have said yes otherwise.
So, age 15, what did you think marriage meant?
The marriage my parents had. They've been married 41 years now, and they have a lovely marriage. And I thought that would be the same for me. And also, I wanted a big family. It would be me, Bob, and lots of kids.
25 years ago, getting married was all rather charmingly old-fashioned. The sexual revolution of the 60s and 70s seemed to have passed Brighton by. Virgin brides were not the rarity they are today.
We got married and then it happened afterwards, but we didn't before. I was a virgin bride. But at 17, I should hope I was.
We felt that we didn't need to have sex before marriage. That was something to look forward to after we were married.
Was that difficult for Graham?
Probably. I think, you know, on many occasions he was amorous, and I won't deny the fact that he could get very close, but it was always, you know, that no-go area.
So virgin bride?
Yes.
For me, it was the build-up, the anticipation, you know. It was a bit like you saw something and then you waited, and because you waited, it gave it that much sort of, it just gave it that little edge.
Were you a virgin bride?
No. But I have to say, Barry is my only one.
I think my attitude to sex before marriage was simply that if it felt right for you, there was nothing wrong with it.
Where and when was the problem, but no, sex before marriage was definitely a yes. It was just where we could do it. It was either around friends' house, then I had a little car, it was in the car, which was not very nice, as you know. So it was trying to get somewhere to do it.
19 of the 20 weddings on the page were held in church. Not because people were particularly religious, but because what everyone wanted was the traditional ceremony. And of course, the white dress.
My wedding dress was second-hand, and it cost £50.
I didn't want a traditional bouffant type sitting on the top of the wedding cake type of dress, just something fairly plain but pretty.
Little lace jacket with pearl buttons down the front. Wasn't a very expensive dress. Must have been maybe £40 or £50.
Did you feel beautiful?
Yes, I felt very beautiful that day.
The wedding dress I picked was on all the, what you call the posters that are on the bus shelters and on the walls and that, and it was Charlene from Dallas. She'd got married, so I wanted that dress. I went shopping with my father and it cost 500 quid.
Oh, gosh. It was probably one of the best days of my life. I couldn't wait to get my dress on. I had somebody come do my hair. I had all the bridesmaids there. I was so excited, I couldn't wait. Couldn't wait to be Mrs.
I didn't turn round until I knew she was coming down the aisle, and then just turned around and looked at her and just saw this vision coming down the church, and that was a lovely moment.
And I started to cry. And I said to my dad, I don't want to go. And he said to me, if you don't want to go, sweetheart, we'll turn the car around and we'll go back home. I know I wanted to get married because I wanted to have a family, but I was just very nervous. And to be quite honest with you, I was very shy. Yeah, so there was I didn't show no garter, I was too shy.
I think people would lie if they didn't have that flash through their mind of, is this the right thing to be doing at this particular moment in time? I took my vows, so I obviously came to the decision that it was the right thing to do, and I felt happy and elated doing it. And I thought it would last a lifetime.
Why did you get married?
Because I loved him.
Whether they thought long and hard about it or simply stumbled into marriage, everyone who walked down the aisle that August had their own idea of what it meant to be Mr. and Mrs.
Well, I certainly thought it was a thing to do, was to get married. You had to have that piece of paper before you can go and buy a house together and move in together.
I wanted to get married to have security, to have somebody care for me, to be with me, just to feel content.
Contentment, security, happiness, love. As they set out in married life, none of the 20 couples on the page knew what the future held. Only one thing was certain. There would be many, many changes in the years ahead.
Do you know when you're in love? Do you know? Does anybody know when they're in love? I'd say probably not. No, we weren't in love, or I wasn't in love when we got married, but I certainly am now.
In 1980, the 20 couples from the Brighton wedding page said goodbye to their parents and moved into their first home. £20,000 may sound cheap today, but mortgaged to the hilt, everyone found early married life a struggle.
You know, we didn't have a lot of money between us.
We bought a 2 up, 2 down for £16,000, which seems remarkable now.
24,000. It was 3/4 of my monthly wage on just the mortgage.
We started off in a curious close, little 1-bedroom.
It's freezing cold in the winter. We used to sit there with lots of duvets and everything round us. It was freezing cold.
All we had was a bed, a kettle and a cat. And it's amazing what you can do and cook in a kettle.
We bought second-hand furniture, second-hand sofa. We even had a black and white television. And we were happy. We were together.
I don't think anything can prepare you for living full-time with somebody else.
I'd probably been a bit spoilt living at home. You know, Mum was of the generation where, you know, the men were to be looked after, so I hadn't had to do a lot around the house and things, so that was a bit of a shock.
Were you a wifely wife?
No, not really. I didn't believe that the marriage was a traditional female-male role. I never have. And luckily Brian didn't see it like that either.
Did you take on board all the sort of responsibilities of being a husband?
I didn't know what a husband had to do, really. I mean, you live together. Sarah gets up and cooks the dinner. I'll come home and eat, you know, and I eat it. We tidy away. And then, obviously, if there's a plug needs changing, light bulb or whatever, a bit of decorating, that's my job.
My mum brought us up to be very domesticated. I did the dinner, I did the cleaning, I did anything that was to do with the home, I done. He was one of these people where everything had to be in its place. Every evening I would set out his clothes, what he was wearing, take the other ones, wash them, dry them, iron them and put them back away. So yeah, I done everything. I run the home.
When you get married, you don't know what's in store and you are a bit naive and people can tell you things, but I think you need to learn, experience them for yourselves. I really enjoyed it, you know, the cooking, doing all the sort of like womanly things for Graham, and then he enjoyed doing all the DIY and I was like always his helper, you know. It was kind of a partnership, I suppose, you know, and it was really good fun.
Whether the relationships were old-fashioned or modern, the couples all seemed happy enough. And with everybody safely on the property ladder, they now turned their thoughts to what many considered the real business of marriage.
Children. Oh, we had decided that we did want children, I mean, and John having a child from a previous marriage.
Marriage was definitely get married and have kids. That was a definite yes. We needed to have a family.
We always said that we'd wait at least 2 or 3 years to get a bit of money behind us, you know, get the mortgage under our belts and pay at least a little bit of the mortgage off before we had children.
I was very keen to have children. It was really part of our relationship. I wanted it like as soon as possible. But Graham said that we needed to wait 4 years, which I was very upset about.
But not everyone waited. Donna and John were the first couple on the wedding page to have a baby. John was 34. Donna was just 21 when she became a mother.
I wasn't expecting to have a child within a year or 2 of getting married. But obviously didn't take protection, use protection to prevent it happening. And it happened. Matthew was born in November 1981, less than 18 months after getting married. It was quite frightening. I was a very naive first-time mum.
Do you think you were a good mum?
I was a good mum.
And was John a good dad?
He didn't help an awful lot. John didn't help an awful lot with the baby. having Matthew did change things. It became very strained. It was never actually spoken to me by John that he felt excluded. He just spent more and more time away from the house.
We went away on a holiday to Benidorm in 1982. I'd had quite a few very inebriated nights there, and came back from holiday and found I was pregnant with Zoe. I mean, Barry was absolutely elated. We couldn't wait. I was 23 and Zoe was born 30th of June.
I was there, obviously there at the birth, and what an experience, great experience.
It was absolutely the worst thing I think I've ever had in my life. It was an awful birth. And I remember saying to Barry afterwards, well, you know, this is it. We're not having any more. Definitely not having any more.
Sarah said to me, "You're disappointed it's a girl." Well, no way, you know. She's got 2 arms, 2 legs, she's healthy. That's all that matters, really, whether it's a boy or a girl. So, obviously delighted.
I had to go back to work. We couldn't afford for me to be off. I remember crying my eyes out and sitting with Zoe and saying, "Mummy wants to be with you," but, you know, there was no question I had to go back to work.
As Maria had agreed with Graham, she waited 5 years before giving up work and becoming a full-time mum.
I don't think he had actually a specific number. He just wanted a family and children. We sort of settled for 3 and that was fine. We knew that we'd have to sacrifice things. We sort of did things together and tried to do as much we could, you know, with the children. And Graham was involved, like reading them a story at bedtime and things like that. The first 10 years had its ups and downs, I suppose, like everybody's marriage did, you know. But 9 times out of 10, it was a happy family.
The marriages on the wedding page would produce a total of 24 children. This is somewhat less than the national average of 2.2 per family. One of the reasons for this was that some couples thought 2.2 was 2.2 too many.
We talked about what the type of life we would quite like. We both definitely didn't want children.
We've always wanted, at times, to ourselves to do the things we want to do in life. We never wanted to get tied down.
And I think that's important you agree that before you go into marriage, because obviously that's going to cause a big problem if you can't agree on that. I had a funny 5 minutes when I was about 30, but it literally lasted a few minutes. I decided I was just being daft. We just simply didn't want children. Well, it's a difficult balance between coming across as smug about this and just being factual. And the facts are we do have a happy marriage, and it's worked for us because we've made the choices that have made us happy. We haven't had the strains that children can sometimes bring in terms of money, just general responsibility. We haven't had to think about anybody except ourselves.
Yeah.
And I do think that's a factor.
Is it selfish?
Yes, probably.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
But we don't really care, really, do we?
Howard and I aren't really the kind of people that go all gaga over babies. I'd probably do that with a puppy or a kitten, but not a baby. I think our lives just sort of pottered along quite happily, and children just never became an issue.
It's sort of expected that you have your 2.2 children, you know, and we never saw ourselves as that. I mean, it's bad enough having to pay out for a house, you know, and pay out for all other bills, you know, to suddenly have to pay out for... So, yeah, maybe there was a selfish side that said, I'm enjoying Debbie, you know, and it's just us two. We want to be just a nice little unit, and I don't want it to be invaded by little children.
I always wanted to have a family. I used to sit there and think to myself, we're going to have a family. and I can have this lovely child to care for. And then when I was 27, I actually fell pregnant. After being married for 10 years, and then all of a sudden to find out you're having a baby. It was the most wonderful thing. We went to the hospital and they said I had an ectopic pregnancy. So I was taken in and had an emergency operation. And obviously when I woke up, I wasn't having a baby, and it had all gone completely wrong. Then I got rushed back into hospital and I had to have a full hysterectomy. So I didn't have any children. It's this big dream I had of having this lovely big family had gone. So...
How did you feel?
I feel devastated. It was the worst thing that could ever happen, because I know even with the family, I know that I would have been a good mum. No matter what anyone says, I would have been overprotective. I would have been a good mum.
We always said that we'd wait at least 2 or 3 years before we had children.
When I found out that Lynn was pregnant, I was ecstatic, obviously. A new child coming into the world, it was great, yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
For 3 days, I was really, really happy. So I got my little girl, my first little girl. You've got that imagination of what their life's going to be like, you know. Oh, I've got a little girl, you know, I can dress her up in all these frilly clothes and things, you know, and she'll be doing this and doing that.
She was our baby, she was lovely, until one of the nurses came in and said, "We think we've got a problem with Lisa, we need to talk to you about it." And they told us that she was Down syndrome, and our whole world collapsed. Because we didn't know what Down syndrome was. Why the hell we conceived a Down syndrome child at our age, we don't know. We'll never know that. Lynn rejected Lisa from the first.
So that was really hard. I didn't want to know, but Tony wouldn't have any of it. He said, "No, she's still my little girl. We're not getting rid of her." Because in those days it was, you know, they used to put them in institutions and just leave them, didn't they?
We argued a lot over Lisa, over money and what we were going to do. That was a very, very hard part of our marriage.
I mean, if it hadn't have been for him, I don't think I would have kept her. All he kept saying to me was, "She's my daughter and that's it. You know, she's staying here with us." And that was it, that was the bottom line. I didn't get a choice.
I always said that Lisa was given to us for a reason, and that reason was that we would look after her, we would cherish her, we would not ever, ever give her away, and she will be ours forever and ever. And I truly, truly feel that and still mean that now.
It took me a long while, but I did come to love her. You know, because she was still my baby, but it did take a long time.
The doctors advised us, because of the mental state of Lisa, another child would help Lisa to grow up. We had Mark, and bless him, he's been such a backbone to all of us as well as Lisa, and he's just fantastic.
It's been very hard work, and it's still hard work. I think that's what makes our marriage strong, is the fact that we've got Lisa to look after and Lisa to hold on to. She's bonded that relationship between us because we've had to face so many things with her. They're just mountains to climb that we've had to do together.
What the 20 couples on the wedding page discovered was that marital bliss could be rather elusive. not getting along was often as significant as getting along.
We're very, very different people. We come from different backgrounds, but they say opposites attract.
I like going down the pub.
Oh, and I certainly don't like going down the pub. I hate going down the pub.
I like playing golf.
What about cars?
Barry likes cars. I like going to the theatre to see sort of musicals.
Do you like musicals?
No, I don't really. But then, having said that, I've never really been to one.
No, I like to swim in the swimming pool.
I don't.
You
I
don't?
prefer the sea.
What do you like watching?
Football. I like watching football, sport, and I do like to watch a film.
I just don't watch a single film.
No, you don't.
Just don't.
You just...
I fell asleep at the cinema. What was the last? Oh, we saw 4 Weddings and a Funeral. What was the last one?
I think it was the last time we went, yeah.
Rows, did you have them?
No, never. Bickering, yes. Never really had a row because I can't be asked.
The best way to describe our rows within a marriage would be to tell you that in January we may not have had one.
Rows, do you have them?
We have rows, yes. Debbie and I have rows.
Rows, they was an everyday occurrence.
Rows are sex.
Kids and money.
Kids and money.
Not so much money nowadays.
No, not so much money because money's okay, but it's still rows about. We still row about sex and the kids, don't we? So.
What are you rowing about, sex?
Because you don't let me have enough.
There's loads of things that I do that irritate Debbie, but you tolerate it because this is the person you want to live with. You know, why did I ask her to marry me if I wanted to change her?
Who would you say was, if anything, the more dominant one in your relationship, or how does it work?
I think it's probably me.
Me.
Yeah, I'll wear the trousers until I get home, then swap them over. Let the wife have the trousers then. I've had them on all day.
I don't mean to sort of get bullying with him, but sometimes I do.
I've never felt like I'm the junior partner in the relationship or anything like that. It's never been that sort of dominance.
Is he bossy?
No.
I think he thinks I'm stroppy and bossy at times, yes. But he tells me I am.
Do you talk a lot?
Yes, we do talk a lot. We talk about most things, really. Because you need to. There's no point in not talking about things. You know, you have an opinion you want to get across and you know it's not going to be a very welcome one. You still need to talk about things.
But not everyone could talk through their problems. Donna and John had had the first baby on the wedding page, and almost immediately the marriage was in trouble.
I was very shocked at the speed that things went wrong. But it was going very wrong, very wrong. He couldn't see that there was a problem. It really was a case of, I've got to get out of this marriage. So in 1983, I filed for divorce. I was now a single parent, going back home to my mum. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what the next chapter in my life was going to be. I was absolutely terrified.
Guess we just stopped talking to each other. We certainly weren't spending as much time together as we had been in the past. No, he wasn't coming home directly from the office. He would be socialising with the other people in the office on his way home. Whereas I'd have finished work at 4 o'clock and I'd done my marking and preparation and be ready for a meal at, say, 7. And Andrew wasn't necessarily there at that time. Because after a period of time of sitting there eating your meal on your own, you think, well, why am I doing this? I suppose I was finding my friendships in other places. It was quite against my own personal principles at that time, but I had found some comfort from another person, which I obviously wasn't getting at home at that stage. I actually moved out of the marital home, and I felt that even Andrew, though Andrew was saying he, wanted me to come back and could forget what had happened, I couldn't forgive myself for going off with somebody else. I'd mentally moved on from our relationship.
Pat and Andrew had been together for 7 years. They were divorced in 1985.
Now I've learned that marriage isn't easy. I don't think love is just enough. It won't just hold you together. I think I've found that with Andrew. There's got to be more than just love in a relationship.
The breakup of Pat and Andrew's marriage meant that 4 of the 20 marriages had now ended in divorce. Everybody else stayed together and moved into the second decade of married life. Gary and Janet had been 23 and 20 when they got married.
When you sign that your marriage certificate is a sign of saying you're going to be together for the rest of your lives.
They had 2 daughters and were still together after 15 years.
I hope to think I was a good husband. I did what I could. I went to work, took home the wages, and basically done what I could with what money I was earning at the time, because, in the 1980s you weren't earning a lot of money. As far as I know, everything was fine. We sort of tended to not be talking to each other as much as we should do.
So you weren't having rows?
Oh yeah, we was having a few rows, but that was basically sort of like, money, not enough money coming into the house. And then Janet sort of told me that she felt there was a problem with the marriage. Being a bloke, I thought, well, she's just having a bit of a funny turn sort of thing, Basically asked her the question, what's wrong? What's going on? She said, well, don't you realise that there's something wrong? I said, no, I don't. I couldn't basically I couldn't point to it. I couldn't understand the situation at the time, sort of thing. She basically came out and told me that she didn't love me. She said she just didn't feel any love for me anymore. Felt that our marriage wasn't going to go any further. I expect there was warning signs, and I probably didn't see them. Honestly, there must have been something I'd done wrong. I don't know. I would have done everything in my power to try and get it together, but it just didn't work. She had made her mind up that it was over, basically. I actually left the house with a bag of clothes and a towel, and that was it.
Karen, the 17-year-old virgin bride, was by now in her mid-30s.
A good husband is someone that loves you and cares for you and feels about your feelings and would sit and talk to you about things. But communication between Bob and I was, and that was it. Because if you ever had a conversation with Bob, he always spoke to his feet. I can't remember when he ever smiled. I'm not saying that I was innocent and never railed back or whatever, but he was a misery. The marriage, I think, got worse. I may have made it worse. What I decided to do was I couldn't have children, so we'd have students, and a lot of them, and they could only ever be boys. I didn't want none of these soppy girls putting their lipstick everywhere in my bathroom and whatever, so we had lots of boys. And I'm not sure whether he ever really liked the idea of having students, but I wanted the house full of people. The reason why I picked boys, not just because I didn't want girls for the lipstick, is that they'd think of me as their mum. The marriage, I think, at that particular time was over, but he was the breadwinner. Yes, I had a little job, but I didn't earn enough to look after myself. I didn't earn enough to run my car. I didn't earn enough to feed myself, basically. So I stuck it out for a bit longer. I'd been married for 17 years. I'd been with him for 20 years. And on June the 13th, I just had to get out. Do you know where I was going? I just had to go. I'd had enough. So I packed some CDs. I picked the plastic linen basket up from the bathroom and threw a couple of little bits in, and took the brand new navy blue towels I'd just bought. I liked those, so I took them with me. Threw them in the back of the car, and I went. And I just drove around and drove around. And then when it started to get daylight and that, I went down my mum's, and my dad was getting ready to go to work. And I just got hugged by my dad and said it was over. I don't want to go back. I'm never going back. And I never did.
"20 marriages, 6 divorces. Some relationships creaking a bit, and others, like Maria and Graham's, still going strong, in spite of 3 children and not much money."
Family life meant so much to Graham because it was something that he's always wanted, a home, a family. He was really committed to the marriage, being the breadwinner and looking after me and everything that went with it, really.
Did you feel very loved?
I did, yes.
When their youngest child was only 2, Graham was made redundant from his job as a cabinet maker. Unable to get work, he became depressed. Maria began to see warning signs of something else.
He was becoming quite forgetful, but they used to put it down to depression, that it was just a stress. He was put on antidepressants. Deep down, I knew something was wrong. I think the reality that something was happening to Graham was when he put a 6-inch nail in an inch bit of wood, and being a cabinet maker all his life and doing such fine furniture through his job and around the home, it really set alarm bells ringing. And I got told, you just got to be more patient and understanding, and I really felt that I was coming to the end of my tether and I couldn't be any more patient and understanding.
Did he have any idea what was happening?
I think he thought that it was just because he couldn't get a job and he was depressed initially. I don't think he knew until we actually got the diagnosis from the hospital.
At the age of 33, Graham was told he had early onset Alzheimer's. Later, it would be re-diagnosed as a form of CJD. As his mental and physical condition rapidly deteriorated, he lost the ability to speak. But Maria nursed him at home for 5 long years.
I think he knew what Alzheimer's was, but, what was in store for him, he didn't have any idea. Neither did I. One of the hardest things was letting go of what was and accepting what is, because you didn't have the husband that you fell in love with anymore. And it also was the fact that you had to be a mum and a dad to your children, and you had to be the provider and look out for everything, really. That was one of the hardest things, where it was just a partnership, but it was so one-sided now.
By 1998, Graham was too ill to stay at home with Maria and the children, and he went into full-time care.
I went to see him every day. I went there and always fed him his lunch, Monday to Friday. Saturdays, I was with the children, and then Sundays, I'd always bring the children. They'd just go and give Daddy a cuddle, or if it was a birthday or special time, we'd go definitely on that day. It's just part and parcel of loving somebody. You'll provide for them, you'll be there for them. The vows I took is for richer, for poor, in sickness, in health, and, it just went with loving somebody, really. I'd always said I wanted him home. They brought a hospital bed into our dining room, and it was all set up so that I could have a twilight nurse to look after Graham during the night. And it was wonderful. The children were able to jump all over his bed. Daddy was Daddy. So we had 2 magical days with Graham. On the 14th of February 1999, Graham developed pneumonia and he died.
Aged?
39.
August 1980, the 20 couples in Brighton's wedding page set off on a journey through marriage. 25 years later, those who are still together don't seem entirely sure how they've done it.
Oh no, it's never ever been romantic. He never ever is romantic. My son buys me more flowers than my husband does. I always think he's done something wrong if he comes home with a bunch of flowers.
Do you still find each other attractive?
Oh, she's sex on legs, she is.
We don't show affection in public. We're not sort of kissy and things like that. But yeah, we are, but we just like to do it when nobody's looking. I like to think that I do romantic things. Perhaps not so much now, but I mean, I always buy flowers.
Sarah loves flowers, so I do buy flowers. Personally, I can't. I'm a bloke, can't see the point in flowers, but you look at them, smell them, they die, and that's it, you throw them out.
How important is sex in a successful, happy marriage?
It's a feature of married life, of course it is.
Yeah.
But it's a feature of any relationship, close relationship, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think again with that, I think...
Can be overrated.
Don't know what you mean, Brian.
We did not choose the couples in this film. They were just ordinary people, brought together on the wedding page of a local paper. A quarter of a century later, they are older, wiser, happier and sadder. A universal story of marriage. Only 12 of the 20 couples celebrated their silver wedding anniversary.
I guess everyone who's had a failed marriage will look back and analyse what's happened, whether it was one person's fault or the other. I certainly felt guilty for moving out. I have learned from the first time around that you do need to be able to say what you feel and get your feelings out and get them listened to as well, not just get them out, but make sure they are listened to as well.
Pat remarried in the late 80s and now has 2 children. After her divorce, Donna never remarried, but she went on to have 2 more children from later relationships.
Whatever I've been looking for in any relationship with any of the fathers of my children or in my marriage, whatever it was, didn't work, didn't happen. I don't know now what I want out of a relationship. And until I'm as sure can be, I'd rather stay on my own than go through another failed relationship.
After his divorce, Gary continued to see his 2 daughters. In 1997, he began dating Michelle.
We met on a blind date and we hit it off basically straight away. And we've now been together nearly 8 years. She surprised me by telling me that she had 6 children. I've got 2 daughters. She's got 5 sons and 1 daughter. Now we've got 2 daughters together. So there's a full sort of family, big family now, and it's good.
Howard and Debbie now have a nice house, a Burmese cat, 3 Jaguar sports cars. And they're still teaching music to other people's children. For Lorraine and Brian, it's not just their passion for travel that's made their marriage work so well.
What's the secret?
I think trusting each other, talking to each other,
Yeah.
always having a laugh about something,
Yeah.
finding the funny side of it.
Yeah.
Neither of us are worriers particularly. We have had things to worry about, everybody does, but we don't lie awake at night gnashing our teeth very much. And we've been lucky, we haven't had too many disastrous events in our lives to tackle, and we do appreciate that luck.
It's been 7 years since Graham died. Maria's now returned to work, but has not remarried.
I never thought about being with anybody else, no. I really thought we would be together till we were old and grey.
You love him very much?
I do, yeah. I still do.
Karen met Jeff shortly after leaving her husband in 1998. She spent the years since shedding some of her obsessive house-proud ways.
I'm still I'm still fussy over my curtains. I still like the home to look nice. I still like everything to be in its place. I don't like the crumbs from the toaster on the floor. But I do relax more. You can put your feet on my sofa if you like. You can put your feet on my puffy. You can walk in with your shoes on if you wish. I don't particularly like it. Deep down I'm thinking, do you have to do that? But I'm more relaxed about it now. And the thing with us now is, it's not the matter of puffing up a cushion. Let's go out. Let's go and have some fun. Let's go on holiday with just me and him. I know that 1,000,000,000% that Jeffrey and I will be together forever and ever. Amen.
Sarah was adamant she wouldn't have any more children after Zoe. Ben was born in 1990.
Do you still love each other?
Yeah.
I do very much.
Yeah. And I'll never ever move, am I? So I'm never going anywhere. But I do love you.
Tell you
Yes,
love me now.
I do love you.
Thank you.
Well, I've always loved her. So, you know.
Lisa is now 22, and both she and Mark are preparing to leave home. But despite these changes, for Tony and Lynn, every day begins the same way.
When I wake up in the morning, Lynn's beside me. I always look at her. And I wake up and she's asleep, and I always look at her while she's asleep. And I can look at her for 10 minutes, and then she'll wake up and she'll say, "What are you looking at me for?" I said, "Just..." And then I say it every morning. Most mornings I will say to Lynn, "I don't know if I love you." I'm very proud of being married 25 years.
And what of the oldest couple on the wedding page? Ray was 71 and Wynne was 60 when they got married in 1980. Both had been married and widowed before. Against all expectations, they had 19 happy years together, until Ray's death in 1999.
I was lucky to have two good husbands. I think that's why I hesitated the second time. You think, well, you're taking a chance, really, aren't you, second time around? But, yeah, it worked fine. We had some nice times, nice holidays.
Wynne's now 85 and lives quietly in sheltered accommodation in Worthing. She has no plans to remarry.